Guys?
No.
Nope. Okay.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We don't have four board members here, so this will just be a community informational meeting on this. But very quickly, I just wanted to go back through the facts of the of what we're doing and why we're here. All right, so if you've gone up by the high school, you'll notice that the building is pretty well down. They've dug out the basement for the most part, and there's kind of a pile of dirt and a hole of dirt, kind of all at the same time up there. They're working through it. Tom, kind of the foreman up there, has told me that they should be done either Friday or Saturday with the actual demo of the building. So that's finishing up fairly quickly. Just so that you can see this part here of the gym and all that's part that we're keeping. You can see that behind the pile of rubble. Part of the demo is that they've saved some of the terracotta, some of the stone, so that we could possibly reuse it. Part of that is also that we can use like a cast and take a cast of the stone to use that in the future building. So here we go to the site plan. What I want to point out to you is this is just a rendering right now, but it's a great plan, and it kind of shows there's two areas I want to show. There's an elementary drop off for here, so this would be parent drop off, and then we have a bus drop off area, which is where we currently use where we currently do that. And then you also see that we have parking around the act shop to the east and to the west. And then what's not shown is to this area here, we still have that street parking that's available. With those parking spots, we have around 120 spots, which is more than what we had at both sites before all this has happened. So in our past, we've had more than that. Let's see here. So as we go back through the site plan, you also see up here that we have a playground area, and it's kind of the regular playground. This area here is about the same size as the playground that's on the north end of the building, of the elementary school. And then we have kind of a kickball area and then basketball goals. And what you'll see here is, it's probably hard for you to see right now, but there's parking spots here, so we can continue to use that area for football games. Because I know quite a few people park up in those areas. And then this is a conceptual drawing of what we just saw with the playgrounds. It's very comparable. We're also thinking that areas around the track and down in this area here, we can still use that for playground area if we need to. Now, when we look at the overall floor plan of a K through 12, this is the overall part of it. We have the main floor, and this is basically ground level. It's the first floor like what we've had before. Okay, so the gym, you would walk in, the old main gym, we would walk in that's the same level. And then the track here that's around is going to be that same level of the existing gym, or the new gym, excuse me. And then we have areas back here, and we have the second level. And then down below in the gym, we have the lower court level. And that's the floor, and then we have a wrestling room / storm shelter, and then some locker rooms there. What we really wanted to show on this piece is that we have the areas that the elementary school would primarily use in yellow, the junior, senior high in blue, the shared places in green, The district office is in purple, and then just the gym and activity center uses. So one area that's really neat is this cafetorium that's right here. And that's going to be a cafeteria, so we'll use it for lunch. And then it'll also be an auditorium that we can use for our performances. It'll have a stage and then a music room right behind it that you'll see. And it'll have everything with that. It'll also have bleachers. And these are not normal bleachers. These aren't bleachers like what we're sitting in here. These are fancier bleachers. They're ones with seats on them and things like that. That's more of an auditorium feel. So when we look at that, this is the conceptual design of what that could look like of the cafeteria part. And then you can see the stage that's here on the right. And then also behind, if you can see, there's kind of the windows and doors into the gym. And you can see the bleachers back there. Now if you go next, oh, there we go. So here's the auditorium part of it. And it's set up for a performance. The bleachers are out. There's seats out. The idea is for us to have 500 seats in this space. The other part of that is you can see there's curtains, there's soundproofing on the walls, and things like that. That's to present it as a true auditorium feel, so that we have that going forward. The gym, this is the new gym and activity center. Our plan is to have this available for community use at times where it's not messing with the school day. So there'll be some times where it's open, there'll be some times where it's not. We'll have to communicate that to the community. But the idea is this walking part, and you can see the people walking along it is a walking track. And then also back here where the windows are is a fitness center with weight room, hopefully some cardio equipment, treadmills, things like that the community can use. What was really nice about this track, and Greg's told me this story about 1,000 times, that he had a patron in his hometown that they were in there on a really nice day. They asked him about it, and just the ability to go to a place that was safe, that was smooth, and allowed them to walk and feel comfortable was so huge. And that would be a huge thing for our community. The court level, as you can see, is down below. What's really interesting on this, and we don't really have this in our current facilities, for practices, it allows for practices like basketball to take place going sideways on the court, and you really have, for practice, 2 spots that you can have practice going on. So in my experience as a coach, I had years where I had 25 kids, and when we broke it up, we could take half the kids in one area and half the kids on the other. You could really make it work. If we have some smaller teams, you could also make it work to have 2 practices going and hopefully not have to have so late of nights as we're going. So here's the main floor plan of the K through 12 building. So as you can see, this blue area down here, there's the main office for the high school, and then this is most of the junior high classrooms. The only junior high classroom that's not there is the science, and that's upstairs. And then we have the media center, and that's in green. That's shared between the junior, senior high school and the elementary school. And then you have the cafetorium and stage. You have the music room, and then band room on the same level as the weight room. So the kitchen's over on this side, and then you get into the elementary area. So the 6th grade's here. What's really neat about that is the flexibility that gives to the school district going forward, either through staff attrition, through needs of our kids, we'll have the flexibility to change how we work and how we do that. A lot of schools have, the middle school is a 6th through 8th grade building. I came from a school, it was a 5th and 6th grade building, but in the past that school had been 5th through 8th grade. So it allows that flexibility. And then we move into the old gym. Here, we're going to utilize these areas. We have offices right now, art room, and then here's the first level of the elementary school. Here's a conceptual design of the media center. So this is right at the front of the building, right on the first floor, and it's a substantial place for both the elementary and the older kids. I think it'll be plenty big enough that we can have numerous classes in there working and be able to work in a way that benefits all kids. Here's the elementary part. So the lower grades are down in this area on the first floor, the main office of the elementary. One thing I like to show here is if you see these doors, there's 2 sets of doors with a door, 2 doors going into the office. What that'll allow us to do for safety and security is we'll be able to keep these doors locked so that if somebody comes into the building, they're able to go through the front door, but then they have to go into the office. And that is so important for security. That allows us to know who's coming into the building. It makes them check in, and it allows us to keep a safer environment. Because if, God forbid, we have somebody who's trying to harm us, it gives us time. And time is so important in those issues when you have those. I've had a lot of experience with that. I've gone through a lot of trainings. And getting everybody behind a locked door is key to the safety of people. And so we'll have that in both the elementary office and the high school office. So it'll be a very controlled building. And this is a conceptual design of the elementary school. And this is one level. This will also be a commons area on the second level. But what's very interesting, and it's evolved greatly in the time I've been an educator, is the amount of small groups that we do. And this will allow a space for us to do that. As you can see, there's multiple groups of kids working on different things here. And that is so important into the way we educate kids right now. This allows us to be more individualized. It allows us to get better data. And it allows us to meet the needs of those kids. I'll always say the story. I had a 6th grader who came from a very, very high achieving family. She had almost perfect grades. And through the testing for these small groups, through all of those types of things, we found out that she was missing a phonics skill, a very small skill. Just through her reading, and once we figured that out, we were able to say, oh yeah, she's missing something. We would never have done that if we hadn't done some of those types of things. And through those small groups, within that 6th grade year, she had it corrected and she was well on her way. She's a very successful kid. She's a great kid. So this is the main area, the first floor. We talked about it. Like I said, the junior high is here, the main office. As you can see, it's still that same secured entry. And the thing I also want to point out is when we have this open to the community, we'll be able to control where people are going in the school. We can keep them in this gym area just through doors. It's not shown here, but we can put doors here to keep people within the fitness area of the school. And then we have doors here, and it'll just create a really good environment for that. Now, as we move to the second floor, this is the conceptual design of the science lab. Now, on either side, there'll be the junior high science and then the high school science. And each will have a classroom, and then they'll have a shared space for the science lab. As we go through here, like we said before, there's the wrestling room / storm shelter on the court level. We'll have 2 locker rooms. And then the next level we'll have weights and then a band room. And then this is the second level of the elementary side. This is the upper grades, and second, third, fourth, fifth. And then this is mostly the high school side of the school. This will be on the second floor. Now, Mr. Sampson, Mrs. Schromick, and Jordan Ducker and I, we visited with Greg. We went and visited Greensburg. And it was really neat how they designed their school. They rebuilt after their tornado a K through 12 building. And they used kind of natural barriers within that school to keep the kids separated. They had, on the same hallway, they had the elementary kids, and then they had their junior high kids. But they were separated by just a turn of the hallway. You couldn't see, if you're an elementary kid, you couldn't see what was going on down the junior high hallway. And the same thing, they were separated. There was no door, there wasn't a soundproofing, there wasn't any of that. Our facility here, the way it's designed, will have the very same thing, not as a turn, but just that natural barrier of that gym. And that'll, I know there's some concern with that, and I understand that. The high school kids are going to be upstairs for the most part. Obviously, we'll have some intermixing between the kids, but for the most part, they'll be up here for the classes. And then the art room will be in the ag shop. And the ag shop will have some upgrades, mostly HVAC and electrical, which is needed. So now we'll get into some of the financial information. I'll try to go through this pretty quickly. So our mill levy this last school year was 52.032 mills. So as we look at this, with the sales tax, our property tax increase, our mill rate will increase by 24 mills, which will put us just below Quinter on our mill rate. They're finishing up a project themselves right now. What the difference will be with ours is, while they're doing some renovations and they're doing a great job with it, ours will be a brand new school. Almost entirely new. Obviously the gym's age, the locker rooms and things like that, but everything else around it will be brand new. So with the county sales tax, here's a comparison of why that's important. We worked with the legislature and the county commissioners to allow us a chance to vote on this. And so 1 cent county sales tax will take the per month of $100,000 residential property to $23, commercial property to $50, and then the ag land, that's an average of them. You'll have to look at your own land because it's based off production, and we can't tell you specifically in this type of a case. Now, if you look without the 1 cent sales tax, this is what it is, and it is higher. So with the 1 cent county sales tax, our bond will be $29.9 million. Now that's our bond no matter what, if we have the sales tax or not. Okay, and that's a 30-year bond. With the sales tax, that will increase by 24 mils. That's with the sales tax. Without the sales tax is 32.5 mils. Our current mill rate is 50.032, or last year's. Fortunately, our mill rate is actually going down a little bit this year from that 50.2, about a half a mil, somewhere in there. So that number will be a little bit lower than what we've been showing. So if the sales tax passes, we would be estimated to receive about $509,000 per year from the county sales tax. Some of the facts on this, we have a high amount of staff that support the K-12 option. We brought the staff in a couple of times. We brought them in individually to go through their rooms. And, I don't know, and I can let our teachers talk to this, but I don't know if we would all been in support of this without our situation. We had a 6-month trial run here working as a K-12 building. And I can tell you that we had more togetherness. The kids on both sides, they worked really well together. They understood, the older kids understood, they were mentors to the younger kids, and the younger kids, they had a mentor that they could look up to, and that's huge. Retain and attract teachers. So we've had 4 positions that have been open for 2 years now. We've maybe had 1 or 2 applicants, and I'm talking total for those 4 positions. It's very, very hard to recruit right now, and that'll really help us. New building. This projected $300,000 a year. That's just taking into account some of the maintenance, some of the utilities, and then there's also funds in there for some kind of staff efficiencies that we can have. And one thing to remember on this, it's not a savings on this. The way the state does their budget, through the number of kids we have, through some multipliers, our general fund is our general fund. We are required to spend it. If we do not spend it all the way down, if I have, let's say, $40,000 left in our general fund, the next year, the state won't send us that $40,000. That's where our number is. So just remember, we'll be able to use this to better educate our kids. That's where that efficiency is coming. We've had a lot of questions. Why don't we look at a different site? There's some limited space and things like that. And it just comes down to cost. When you start looking into needing to buy the land, replacing the VOAC building, and building another gym to replace the main gym now. And then the possibility of having to extend utilities and roads. It's been an estimate that it would take longer and it would result in more costs. So that's how we came to putting it back up on the hill. That's a huge piece to that. What about enrollment? So right now we have about 16 kids per classroom, some a little more, some a little less, but on average that's pretty close. Our agreement with our staff allows us up to 22 kids. And with that, we could add from that average, about 6 students per classroom. And if you take that through the whole system, that would allow us to increase by about 144 kids. And this last year we had 360. Year before we had about 375. And if we have that problem, I would be glad to have that problem. If we're too big at that point, that would be a huge thing for us. Timeline. We're trying to get this started with a yes vote to be able to move forward as fast as we can with this. We've had a lot of planning. Our architect and construction company have been working together so that we can move forward. The goal would be to bid out the first portion in the October timeframe, and then to be able to move forward from there, to get some of the dirt work, some of the footings, things like that moving. And get some of those, if you've been in construction, we found this out with our modulars. Some of that electrical equipment, we didn't really have HVAC equipment to get, but some of that equipment is very hard to get, and it's quite a ways out, time-wise. So the more we can get going, the better off we'll be with it. If we can get started this fall, we're hopeful that we can get going and possibly get our kids in the junior, senior high school portion by December or January of 26. Now, I will say that's a goal, and it's a lofty goal, and we may not make it, but that's what the goal is, and we want so bad to get those kids in there. It was this past year sophomores; they would be seniors that year, and they would have gone through their last 3 years of school in the situation that we're in. So if the vote doesn't pass, we really need to have all the funds in place for us to start the project. And what I mean by that is we need to know that the community supports our project before we move forward. If it didn't happen to pass, the board would have to decide what to do next. The next chance that we could really do it would be in November, and we'd have to move pretty darn fast for that to happen. So construction would probably start around spring of 25, and the bid process could be completed around December, but really we're getting into those winter months. It'd be hard to know when we could start. But it would push us back to more of a spring, summer of 26 completion date. One thing that has been positive is our timeline with our modulars. If you've been to meetings, you'll have heard that we were talking December of 25, how long the insurance company would pay for those, and that has been increased. Our time frame, they've moved that to May of 26 now, so that is a positive. That's good news. So this plan will provide our community with our students with the education they deserve. So with that, what I'll end by saying is we really need people to go out and vote. It is vitally important. And in my position, I don't get to go on a lot of soapboxes or say a lot of different things, but I'm one. I grew up in Salina, and I went to a bigger school. I went through an elementary school, moved to a middle school, and then right at the start of my freshman year, went to a little bit of my freshman year at Salina South High School, and then we moved to my hometown of Wakefield, which is a little bit bigger than the Cheylin district. And I went to a K-12 building when I was in high school. I would not be an educator if we hadn't had that experience. I was into my own things at that point. I was into playing football. I was into playing basketball, very badly, I should say. But I was into those things. And what really got me to thinking about it, we were in a 2-story building, and I thought one of the coolest things that happened, probably once a week, it was probably on Fridays, we'd have our jerseys on, like what we do, and we go down the stairs, and then it was always the same class. It was like third or fourth grade, and the teacher would stop the class so the older kids could go through, and every single time they just ran into each other when they were going through there. And I kind of started laughing, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then when I was a senior, our DARE program asked me to be involved with it. And so with that, we were working with 5th graders. And so I went out and I mentored them a little bit, got to know them, and I thought that was really cool. And I knew then that I wanted to be an educator. I knew I wanted to be a 5th and 6th grade teacher. And so that's what I did for about 12 years before I got into administration. And just that feel of hometown school, the feel of, mentoring those kids. Now all those kids that are that age, they're all in their 30s. Some of them are in their mid 30s, and it's really neat to talk to them. The feel of a small town school is unmatched. Before I came here as at Ellsworth, it was a great school. I absolutely loved it there. But it was still different. They were just a little bit bigger than us, and it was just a different feeling. The atmosphere that we have here and that we can build, you know, is already good, but I think we can build it so much better. And that's just going to help our kids. And that's going to help from the younger kids to the older, older to the younger, and it's going to help our staff to work together and be a family and allow them the opportunities to work in the very best environment. And when we have that, I know I've been here long enough. I know that the community of Atwood, the community of USD 105 in Rawlins County, they can go anywhere. And so, just with everything we've done, Mr. Sampson, Ms. Schromick, and I, we talked about how important it was through our situation to stay positive. And I know there's times where it gets a little rough. It's not always possible, but our kids are so resilient. Our community is so resilient, and they've done such a great job through all this, and I can't be prouder of them. Our board they've had to meet so many times, and they're working so hard for our community. They don't always agree on everything, and that's a good thing. We don't have to agree on anything. That's how we get better, and that's good. So with that, I'd like to open it up. I don't know if we want to have the teachers come up and talk, or
do you want me to talk to the audience, or do you? Sarah Schmidt / Sarah Whitty. I am a 4th generation. My son Kendrick is a 5th generation. My great grandma Grace graduated from one of the county schools here in Rawlins County. My grandma and grandpa were the valedictorian and the salutatorian back in 1950, and my mom back in 74, me and here, and my son Kendrick in 2021. And that's my daughter on the very far left, the class of 2039. And I apologize if I get emotional, because that's what we do. I am one of the very few teachers that got to see both buildings every day. Us, music teachers, me and previous Kayla Wambacher, we're the only teachers that floated between both buildings. And that, to me, says a lot for what I have to say moving forward. I started my day on the high school hill. Loved it. Got to see my junior high school kids. Got to deal with the morning attitudes, first hour. Got to get, a butt chewing from an algebra teacher that taught me about my huge class, and it messed with her algebra numbers and years ago. It's just that. And then I moved from there and then came down the hill, and then I spent my time down here with the remaining music students that I had. This past year, I have been in this building solely. And to begin with, I got to go in the office like I did every morning to go say hi to Marcy and Melissa and see everybody and do my morning rounds and stuff like that. And when they moved up to the hill, the kids, the teachers, the whole faculty, I cannot tell you the feeling that the disconnect that I have now within my soul, within my teaching career, with everything that I do. I was one of those first teachers that said, I'm not sure if I want them to be combined. I am now, and have been. Here's the thing, Rawlins County, Atwood High School alumni, we're in this. We do what we do because we care about your kids. I can tell you when your kid, and here's the cool thing, I get to see almost every single kid in the district every day. one of the very few teachers that ever does. Me and Mr. Steiger, the PE teacher. And I can tell you that I care for your kid and what happens to him almost as much as my own. Because when your kid hurts, I hurt. When your kid is struggling, I want the best for him or her. To sit here and say that of course we just want a new building. A building has nothing to do with it. What we do is that we take care of your kids and we educate and we want the best for them. Here's the thing, we're so used to functioning on, we'll make it work. We'll do whatever we have to. We will do whatever we have to make it work because we care that much about your kids and we care that much about our future and everything else. But we would not tell you that that building is worth it, that go the K-12 route. We wouldn't tell you that just because we want a building, because it's new and it's fancy. That has nothing to do with it. What we teach like now is not the same with what we taught 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. Because we are constantly improving. That's what we do. We educate ourselves so we can educate others. Same thing with the people behind me, with architects. We have to we do continuing professional development for a reason. Some of you have to have licenses and degrees, and you have to keep doing that for a reason. Because life moves forward, and there's new things that we have to, how we teach, how we build buildings is different than what we did 10 years ago. The efficiencies, how we design things, everything's constantly moving. No offense, I don't want my husband using the same practices from 25 years ago as a dentist. No, thank you. Please use the new stuff and the new things. Same thing, that's why it's called a practice. We're constantly moving forward and working towards better and new. So we're not going to sit here and feed you some sort of line to say that, of course, we want a new building. Please don't insult us educators that way. I want the best for your kids and for mine. And I'm going to do it with whatever building that you're going to support. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be so much better if you put them all in one. So my reason why, I love what I do, and I love your kids as much as mine. And trust me when I say, go vote. It is worth every penny.
Thanks, Sarah. We're going to piggyback a lot because everything she was saying is how I feel. I've been here, I'm probably the OG of Rawlins County Schools right now. I've been here over 30 years. I was a para for 17. I was a coach. I'm a teacher. As she said, we're in it for the kids. Number one, I'm a third generation. My daughter is fourth generation. I've seen it all. I've seen us deal with things. I've had 8 admin in my career alone. Some of those did double duty as superintendent and principal. We've made do for long enough. Some of the reasons that we need I feel that we need a K-12 is the comprehensive education. It provides for an experience for the students, but also the teachers and support staff. We saw that it worked last fall when we came together and worked to continue giving our students a positive learning environment despite the challenges. Collaboration was more effective and much easier. Transitioning for students going to the high school or junior high is going to be so much less stressful and more smooth. There's much more increased opportunities. It can offer a wider range of academic and extracurricular opportunities for students with access to resources from kindergarten through high school. Students can explore a broader array of subjects, activities, and programs, helping students to discover their interests and their talents. Of course, there's cost savings. Consolidating the school can lead to cost savings in the grand scheme of things. It can reduce overhead costs associated with maintaining multiple buildings, streamline administrative functions, potentially allowing resources to be directed towards improving educational programs and facilities. Sorry, a little windy, been at it a while. Improved facilities. Rebuilding the school as a K-12 provides an opportunity to create modern, state-of-the-art learning environments that meet the needs of students in this 21st century. Upgraded facilities can enhance safety, accessibility, and technology integration, creating a more conducive learning environment for all students. We've done a great job of making do. Now's the time to do it right. A K-12 can serve as a focal point for a community, bringing us together, allowing parents, teachers, and community members to come together for the students. This can foster a sense of unity and collaboration among stakeholders, leading to stronger relationships and support networks within the community. The energy, as Sarah said, was different at the elementary when we were all together. When they moved, something left with them. It felt a little sad and empty somehow. I had never experienced that in 30 years. Research has also shown that a K-12 can have a positive impact on academic performance and student outcomes. Lord knows we all worry about it. The teachers in Rawlins County are top-notch. They are constantly striving to do what's best for the students. By providing continuing education and support services from kindergarten through high school, students can experience greater academic success and overall well-being better together. In conclusion, investing in a school bond to rebuild schools as a K-12 facility will have far-reaching benefits for students, educators, and our community as a whole. By creating a more cohesive and comprehensive educational system, we can better prepare our students for success and create a stronger, more vibrant community for the generations to come.
Hi, I'm Farrah Trail, and I'm standing before you not just as a junior, senior high sped paraprofessional, but as a community member and a mom who has put 4 of her children through our system, and they all graduated within the last 11 years. Our community is at a crossroads, and the decisions we make will shape the future of our children and our county for generations to come. While I was working in the environment that we had at the beginning of the year, I saw firsthand how a K-12 school would look like and how that environment would feel. Watching the older students interact with the younger ones has been one of the most heartwarming experiences of my career. These interactions were not just casual. They were moments of mentorship, growth, and community building. The older kids naturally take on the role of mentors, guiding and setting examples for the younger ones. This dynamic creates a nurturing environment where every student feels valued and supported. I was also able to witness both buildings coming together and being truly unified. The bonds we share go beyond the classroom, extending into our daily lives and reinforcing the sense of community that makes Rawlins County so special. I have always felt supported by my colleagues, but by having all of us in one central place, it made me feel even more supported, knowing that we all share a common goal, the well-being and success of our students. A new school means better facilities, more resources, and an environment that fosters learning and growth. Our children deserve the best, and this is a step towards providing them with the tools that they need to succeed. Moreover, the new building will offer features and spaces that the entire community can utilize, creating a hub for events, activities, and gatherings that will benefit everyone in Rawlins County. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Our children are the future leaders, innovators, and caretakers of our community. By providing them with a top quality education, we are empowering them to create a better world for all of us. I urge you to think about the next generation and the legacy we want to leave behind. Let's come together as a community and support our children. Our children are counting on us, and together we can build a brighter future for Rawlins County.
Is it on?
Yeah, I just had it really hot for him.
Okay. These ladies did a fantastic job. I could repeat a lot of that. I'm not going to because they did such a good job. I would like to say that this last year was very interesting because it wasn't planned. Teachers like to plan. We thrive on planning. So it was very difficult in the aspect that we didn't really know what was going to be happening that next month or the month after because it kind of kept shifting. When were the modulars going to be in? When were the high school, junior high students going to be leaving? So we never really got to plan on solid plans of let's get together, let's do our ag in the classroom like this, let's change this up, let's do our PALS program or our SAD program or our SAM program. Like, how does that look? So to move into a K-12 building where we can actually plan for that. So all of these things are happening between our elementary students and the older students wasn't planned. It was on accident. It was like, just spur of the moment type. They see the students in the hallway and they were mentors. Like it was amazing, and I think that was not expected. So I think if we got a chance to plan it, I mean, I can't imagine what's going to bloom from all that. So, all right, so some thoughts to think about, and you correct me on this. The ag building improvements are around 1.2 million. Is that what they're looking at?
I don't know.
Approximately, it's at least $1 million, right? And so we're looking at putting $1 million into renovating our ag building. So we're looking at 1.7 to renovate our elementary. For how long? Not very long, because we have issues. we're an older building. We have issues. We have our handicap accessibility is minimal. Our doors are not handicap accessible. Our bathrooms are not. We had a student this last year was in a wheelchair. We had a music program that was almost, we had to carry him up there. We made it work, but to actually have handicap accessibility for that would have been fantastic. Like I said, bathrooms, we removed a toilet from one of the bathrooms so that, it was possible, but not one of our bathrooms, even our handicap accessible bathrooms, are truly handicap accessible. We found out the hard way, unfortunately. Fire marshal ratings. If we put so much money into our building, currently we're grandfathered in with a lot of that. Talking with Chris earlier, he was on the school board, I don't know how many years ago, and that was an issue then. These are not surprises. We know that we're an older building. We know we are grandfathered in. If we put so much money into the building, we will have to put in sprinklers. We will have to replace doors. So if we're looking at ag building for $1 million and trying to renovate handicap accessibility for an entire building, fire safety for an entire building, and then we move on to our foundation. It's an old building. We don't have a basement. So we are having some foundation problems. You can see expanse and joints in the hallways, and I am not an architect, I'm not a construction manager. I'm just talking like a principal. I know there's cracks in the hallways, they're expanding. We didn't realize it until we had Christmas lights up in one of the rooms, and you can see into the room. You can see the Christmas lights clearly through the hallway. Like, oh, that's not good, We'll have to fix that, but that's not you could cover it. It's not an outside exit, It's a hallway. However, when the remodel was done on our windows in the late 80s, early 90s, there's 2 different types of brick. So however it was done, those bricks are coming apart. So yes, we could caulk it, but we found there's breezes that come in from the out. You can see light from the street into the school. And yes, we can caulk that. We can put a Band-Aid on it, but technically if we're going to be fixing it, we should fix it. We could fix that by moving up to a different building, but we could fix that. We do have plumbing issues. You've all heard that. Plumbing issues are big. Like I said, we don't have a basement. So if we're going to fix the plumbing issues in the classroom wings, then we will have to take up a tile, which is asbestos tile. We are assuming it's 9x9 tile. The year that it was made, very highly possible that it is asbestos. So yes, we could take up a little strip of it, fix the plumbing underneath it. Okay, but now we have patches in our floor, unless we're going to do the whole floor. But that's adding to our $1.7 million. How much does it cost to redo an entire flooring? If we're going to do it, how do we do it? Do we Band-Aid it? Do we fix it? Do we make it new? And at that point, we're fixing the plumbing. We make those bathrooms handicap accessible, which means that you're probably going to have to take out one of the toilets in each of the classrooms, which is fine. It's something that we have to do that's going to add to the cost of doing that. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And I would suggest handicap accessible in each of our classrooms. How much does that add to our 1.7? How much does that take away? I don't know. That's not my job. Air conditioning units, many of them are getting to the end of their age. We have replaced 4 or 5. That leaves 20 because each of our classrooms has their own unit, which is fantastic. We love it. We have heating and air that we can control on our own. High school did not have that. So it's kind of hard to talk about because you feel a little bit spoiled that yes, we do have our very own, climate control in our classrooms, where the high school had on or off. So it's hard for the elementary to kind of complain, and that's why we haven't been out there like, oh, it's so bad. No, it's not. It's great. But we're getting to the end of that. And so we're going to be needing to get some funds for that. And this is not new information to anyone. This was a study that was done in 2020 prior to COVID. It was published. We put it on the website. We did different meetings about it. It's not new information. It's still on our website. The full report. I'm only giving the highlights because I don't speak that language. And so I know there's some brick tucking and pinning and different things. I don't know what that means. I'm not going to pretend like I know. So those issues, along with drainage, anytime it rains more than a normal rain, we have flooding issues. We don't have a good drainage system. In between the hallways and the wings, it's not good. Yes, it can get fixed. There's different ways to fix that. We're just adding to our costs. Same thing with our roof. You have a large roof system. It's going to need replaced eventually. It's a roof. Right now, it's not bad. We have snow. It sits, and it does leak in. Snow is worse than rain. We do have some problems with rain, but snow it settles, it sits, it melts into the hallways, into the classrooms. Mrs. Shirley's got some nice rain spots, snow spots. We haven't talked about safety. So, Safe and Secure Act, we need to be looking at upgrading our front entrance. So that would be one of the places that I would definitely put the money, from that 1.7. We're talking about children's lives. So we have to spend the money there. So that just gets into the cost. We're gonna have to redo something up there. The different types of glass, the different types of entries, upgrading all of that. So just more of the cost. So I think it is something to think about. Like, we haven't even talked about the gym. How much does it take to redo the gym? Our locker rooms are, like, those bathrooms right there are completely shut down. Toilets are removed. The plumbing underneath, the pipes are collapsing. Same thing. We've been working on it. We're not ignoring it. We know it's an issue. We're bathing it along. We had a facilities committee together in 2023 before the fire. We'd met multiple times. We're making steps forward to what are we going to do next. And we got kind of put on hold because we had a fire at the high school. So we don't feel like we should be spending major amounts of money down here when we don't know what's going to happen. So we're kind of on hold. We're maintaining. We are trying to, make do with smiles on our faces. We had to move a class out of the kindergarten classroom last year because we had a major backup. The kids were great. I'm sure they went home and they told some great stories. Teachers were like, please don't talk about it. So there are big issues. We don't like to talk about it because, yes, we are still running school here. So, but we're doing as best we can. So I just thought maybe knowing some of the different issues that we are having and what we are doing for it, but 1.7 million, what's that going to cover? So that's something to think about. That's going to cover for how many years. It's going to help us get through 5 years, maybe, if we're lucky. And then where are we going to be? Because this side of the building was built in 1950 something. That side of the building was 1964. So we're not a brand new building, but we're going to be needing some help also. So if we're putting this money into it, then how much money are we going to put into it? And would it be more feasible to spend $6 million on a brand new building? That then now we're sharing different spaces where we don't have to rebuild a library, a cafeteria, a band room, a music room, all the common spaces that we will be sharing together. So our square footage drops dramatically if we're moved up there. So those are my thoughts. Any questions?
Why did I decide to go last here? I think I'm last, maybe I'm not, but thank you, ladies. They said a lot of what I was wanting to say, so I guess that's a good thing. You won't have to hear me ramble up here. First off, thank everyone for coming to this, and everybody who's listening online for coming to get information to help you make a very important decision that's coming up. I think everybody knows me, but I'm Jeff Sampson. I'm a second year principal at the high school, 712 principal. It's about my 10th year, maybe 12th, I don't know, kind of lost track in education, but a lifelong resident of Rawlins County. As Di and Sarah both said, generational. I think I'd be 5th generation living here, so I guess, when I was in the halls at the high school, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but ultimately didn't, but I always knew I wanted to come back here. It's always just been a special place. Thinking of that, I think of when the fire happened, just all the community, county support just instantly after the fact of that fire. offering aid in all sorts of ways. And not only Rawlins County, but Northwest Kansas in a whole was just super supportive in this process and helpful. So that's, that's the reason I love this place. It is very special. So with those deep roots, and I look across the room here and I see a lot of people that, have those same roots here. And even if you don't, you're here for a reason, and, you have a love for Atwood and Rawlins County, and you're invested, to say the least. So, this bond is a big investment in the future. I really feel like it is positioning us for success for the next 100 years for our school district. 100 years ago, this community made sacrifices to invest for the success of future generations in building a school. And to speak to the process of to where we're at now, since the fire, I think we've had 38 board meetings. So a lot of time has been devoted to where do we go from that tragedy. And with that, I think we've done a great job of hiring people to help us through that process with SPT and McCowan Gordon. And I feel like through the process we've done a good job of balancing needs and wants. With always having the efficiency and effectiveness, sustainability in mind in the process. I really feel the goal has been, let's do this right so we only have to do it once. The last thing I want is to be coming back to the community in future years soon, 5, 10, 15 years, asking for more money because we didn't do it right the first time. So I guess to speak to the proposed K-12, in my role as the 7-12 principal, all these ladies kind of spoke to it. We did have a test run down here with the, using the Methodist Church in the grade school. The grade school welcomed us in with open arms. It was awesome. Just the unity was so much different than anything I'd experienced in education. Getting to see those young kids every day, getting to know what would be my future students, I can start to build those relationships sooner with those kids. I made a point to tell my students at a pep rally, I encourage you to make good decisions for yourself, but, I pointed out the young kids on the other side. I said, you need to make good decisions for these kids too, because you're role models. And look out and see the looks on their faces when I said that. Was, I'm getting goosebumps now. It gave me goosebumps then. So, we did see a lot of positivity with that being under one roof. And like I said before, I don't think we would have had the number of teachers wanting that in the future without this test run of it to see all those benefits that come with it. So, but there's no way around it. There's a teacher shortage. Teachers are hard to come by, like Mr. Stoddard spoke to. We've had positions open for quite a while and get very few applicants. Getting under one roof, K-12, it's exciting to me in a leadership role to, be able to work with Mrs. Schromick and Mr. Stoddard and, the teachers, and we can think differently, and we can, use our staff, or those great assets we have in our staff better impact the education of our kids. I just really feel like the K-12 gives us a good bang for our buck with those, multi-use spaces and shared spaces. Cafeteria, two areas in one. Auditoriums are amazing. They're a big ticket item, and this is a great solution to have a very nice auditorium space when we need it, and still have it as usable space the rest of the time. And and then just being able to share the gyms and the commons area and the lunchroom and those types of spaces. really make this process doable in my eyes, or the K-12 doable in my eyes. So, I guess I just want to stress, like I said, there's so much positivity and unity in the K-12, and I think that'll be amazing moving forward. And I just leave on the note. I think I already said it, but I guess I'll say it again. Somebody invested in our future 100 years ago to set us up for success, and I really feel like we need to do that again. So, thank you.
With that, if anybody has any questions, please come up to the front.
I'm Shelley Hawley, and I'm a community member in many generations in Rawlins County. And I just have a couple of, and I know this is a conceptual drawing, so I just am mindful that you have got parking for, and this is conceptual, 16 cars to sit to watch down into the canyon for football. And my observation in going to the games is that there are many more who like to park to watch and listen to the game and be out of the elements, and they're not going to want to walk up the stadium steps because they're older. And so I don't know if there's, in your conception here, if there could be more space for more parking around the football field.
Yeah, good question. We didn't actually count for that rendering how many we're showing there, but the intent was to replace what's there. And so however many are there is however many that we would be still keeping.
Okay, great,
So,
thanks.
yeah, and the way we did it was we thought we could make it a kind of a dual use area and have concrete in that area and have the basketball courts on the west side of it, so they're shooting toward the hill. And there's still a lot to develop on that. I mean, I know it's not perfect in that rendering. We've had some other thoughts, of course, of potentially putting a low fence along there so that you can still see over it to see the games, but then it would protect balls from rolling down the hill, just some things like that. So comments like that are very appreciated. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
This kind of piggybacks on that, but I've had a couple older people in the community question the design being conceptual and about handicap parking to get specifically into the cafetorium, since it's kind of in the middle. Will there be parking back behind there that's right near that door on the cafetorium? Specifically handicap parking, sorry.
We're still working through all the grading on some of that area, so I'm not sure that it would necessarily be in the back, but there will be all new entrance, all required entrances are required to be ADA accessible. And so we're talking about having a ramp. For instance, we've also talked about having deliveries that come in through the existing gym entrance and putting a ramp there so that deliveries could happen more easily there, so people could be dropped off at that location. The front entry also at the north corner would also be accessible. Probably like to try and grade it so that there's not any ramps. Ramps are the most fun to deal with, and I think we'll be able to work out the grading so at least that area does not have a ramp. But all still in the works. But yes, all required entrances have to be ADA accessible. So the one on the back is also required to be ADA accessible. It might require a ramp. Like I said, those aren't, depending on how far we have to go, aren't the most fun to deal with. So we'll try and provide better ADA accessibility than that. Yeah.
Is there going to be a way that someone who needs to use the handicap parking can get into the gym? Are the doors on only the east end?
I'm not sure I'm following you. So,
Okay.
all right, are you talking about the new gym or the existing gym?
Either one.
So, like I said, there'll be a ramp in front of the existing gym. The new gym, the entrance is intended for the ADA accessibility to come through the front entry, and that will all be flat.
I'm only asking because I know it's all conceptual, you're doing the best you can. I'm thinking some people who could get to the front of the building are not up to a long walk if they have to walk all the way to the east side of the gym to get in. That was just a thought.
Yeah, that's
So, the main, let me go back to the site plan, maybe that's easier. So that all the ADA parking would be up here, and so you'd only be going right into enter there to get into the gym,
Oh, good.
right
Good.
there.
I just didn't see a doorway.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So will the parking that is being used, or really what was being used out front, where people could park in front of the old gym and a little bit to the north, which you're now making into the drop-off zones for the bus and stuff, will that be available for parallel parking, not parallel, for the angled parking during an event, so somebody could park there and have a shorter distance to go in?
I don't see why not, it couldn't be used for that, that's a good comment, I don't know that we've planned it that far yet,
Yeah.
but it certainly could happen.
I could see, if we wanted to do that, like where the bus parking is.
Yes, that's what I'm speaking of.
I could see in the evening that being very viable, but if it's an event during the school day, that's where the buses go.
Right.
So we'd have to probably close that part off.
Right, so that would help with the distance to go in, but it doesn't give them the handicap accessible because there'd be the steps to have to go up to go in, correct? So, I mean, I'm thinking of my mother who would want to go see a grandchild's performance, and at the nursing home, she would get out of her room and say, oh my, that's a long haul. And I never knew if she meant H-A-L-L or H-A-U-L. It was a long haul for someone who finds it difficult to walk, so at that distance. And so I think what I'm hearing is having some sort of parking accessibility that will make the walk from the parking to the performance spaces a little more accessible. So that's why they're asking about in the back. Could there be something there that would get them into the cafetorium? Yeah, right in there. That would be a less of a walk.
This area will have to be ADA accessible,
Okay.
sure.
But we're
Yeah.
talking parking. That's
Well-
what we're asking about is the parking.
Right, I think there will be some parking, I'm not sure exactly how much back there. And yeah, that would be up to the school, I guess, how you wanna handle some of those entrances and that. There was a couple of questions that we had written down. One was, are utility bills taxed? I don't know if I know the answer to that question. I don't believe so. And then what was the other one? The other one was about parking, right?
Yes, will grandparents pick up lower grades after school? Where will? While he's looking for that, I'll call the utility company and get that information. We'll get that out so everybody knows.
And this is the expected area for drop-offs for elementary before and after school.
How you doing? I had a few questions. I was curious about what is the interest rate on the bond?
I believe that Piper Jaffray used a 5% interest rate for the bond. They try and be conservative on that because it affects future projections. And I know when we were talking earlier, I haven't looked in the last month, so I don't know if I'm telling you exactly what they are right now. But I know some bonds were selling for around 4.25. And they try to use a conservative interest rate to make sure that projections are going to be accurate. So,
Is that fixed for 30 years?
yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the way it works is if the bond is passed, about a month or two after the bond is passed, then those bonds will be sold. And then they are fixed for those 30 years. But if interest rates drop, like they have in the past, after 5 or 10 years, the school can actually refinance those bonds at a lower cost if the interest rates go down.
Does that help the taxpayers?
Yes. Or it either helps the taxpayers in lowering the amount that has to be paid, or oftentimes what schools do is they'll keep that amount the same so they can retire those bonds earlier, which eventually helps the taxes at a later time.
Okay. I was curious on the vote about why there wasn't a few more options. It's like one option, but was there more options talked about or anything, or?
So, yeah, there was
It's like all or none, I kind of feel like.
Yeah, and honestly, that's probably our direction, just from our experience in other bonds. Bond questions get very confusing, and that question that you're gonna see on the ballot, it's in the information that's been sent out, but that question is about this long. And a lot of it has information that just has to be in there for legal purposes. And so by the time you put 2 questions on there, and then we also have the question about the county tax, we just felt that it was going to be confusing. In fact, like they said, the board members had been to 38 meetings over the course of this, and we even had, when we did the surveys, we had one sentence question for each option, and it was still confusing. And so then when we brought both bond questions back to the school board, there was some confusion on the school board about, okay, now what does this say? And these are people who have seen your board members who've been to 38 board meetings getting educated about all this. And so we just felt like it was a better approach. It's going to be less confusing, because trying to educate people on 2 questions along this whole way would have been even more difficult. So we felt the best approach is to say, let's go for a K-12. And that was also after many meetings. We had 2 community surveys. We had 70% in support for a K-12 in both community surveys, and 98% of staff support. So that's why we felt that was the direction to go.
All right. Do you think that a 30-year loan is going to impact the local economy in a positive way or a negative way? I mean, obviously, we're going to get a nice school out of the deal, but do you think that it's going to affect people because, paying taxes, things like that, everything's going to raise up, of course?
I can say that we've passed 12 out of 13 bond projects that we've been involved with, and we do get, there's always concern about raising taxes. Nobody wants to raise taxes, and they're concerned about the impact of it. I tell the story of my, in my hometown of Marion, I passed a bond issue for a school, and then about 3 or 4 years later came back and passed a bond issue for a hospital project. And I was in downtown Marion one time and at the cafe, and I saw my 80-year-old Sunday school teacher, and she said, "Greg, how come every time I see you, I think I'm getting a tax increase?" It's like, so being from a small town, I totally appreciate the fact that we do not want to overburden our tax base with large tax increases, because you have a limited amount of people that we're impacting with something like this, right?
Right. You got a lot of, obviously, entrepreneurs. You got a lot of farmers.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of just normal people trying to live. And,
right.
I think that's kind of the fear, is that any investment, it's a good investment, is usually 10 years, 15 maybe.
Yeah.
30 is going to make your kids and their kids going to pay for that, know.
Right.
So and I don't know, and I don't know if you know, but my question is what did they do 100 years ago when they built the school? I mean, it's probably hard to tell, but
yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I can say that in my hometown of Marion, we did that in 2006 and 2008. Both of those bonds were paid off. It's only been a positive thing for my hometown. And it's funny, it's what, 18 years later, 16 years later, and we did the top-loaded gym like we're doing here. We did an auditorium. We did a new hospital. When they bring new teachers who are interviewing for those positions, when they bring them to the community, the first thing they show them are the bond projects that we did that long ago. It makes such a huge impact for you to have good facilities, good schools for your hometown. It only brings positive things to your community, in my opinion. Okay. And the taxes, the one thing about this county sales tax that I think is important for people to understand is that it is a 30-year term for that also. When the bonds are paid off, that county sales tax goes away. And so when they factored in the county sales tax, they only factored that it would get that $509,000 every year. They didn't factor in an increase based on inflation or an increase in services in the community. Those taxes, that tax typically will all go up. And they see these bonds typically being paid out at least 5 years earlier than what their projections are. So try to set this up in a way that is going to be impactful and not overly burdensome. I mean, and done the best job we can in that regard.
So are you saying that there's a possibility that it can actually be paid off earlier than 30 years?
Oh, I 100% think it'll be paid off earlier than 30 years, especially with the county sales tax, because there has been absolutely no inflation factor or increase in that sales tax. I mean, if you look at the amount the county sales tax was getting 10 years ago in Rawlins County, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but everybody knows what inflation has done and how much more things cost now. Well, that generates more tax, and that's not been factored into any of these equations. So, yeah, I 100% think it'll be paid off faster in 30 years.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess I'm up next, Eric. Okay. If there isn't someone else that wants to go. Okay. I'm gonna take this off and kind of speak to the crowd and both of you at the same time. I'm not known for my public speaking, so bear with me on this. But anyway, most of you probably know me, Dale Leckie. I'm a second generation student here in this county, so I'm kind of the newbie compared to 4 or 5. But anyway, kudos to Mr. Stoddard for the presentation he did and the teachers. One of the things I read or what I heard from everyone is passion, and we all have passions and stuff like that. So that being said, I'm just going to ask some questions I hadn't planned on based on what I heard. So the architect guy, great. So I'm an elevation guy, besides a lot of other things. But so what's the front elevation going to look like based on the current height of the curb? Is that floor going to be above that some? I'm assuming so. I'm just curious. Or will there? I mean, then maybe I'm asking, is that retaining wall going to be gone? Conceptually speaking.
Well, not conceptually speaking, I can tell you that the existing main level of the school will be at the exact same level as the current level of the gym, because it's going to be flat across there. And so that is our plan right now. Now, about the retaining wall, interestingly about that retaining wall that's out in front, if you look at the pictures that were in the museum, Sarah provided these, there actually used to be steps that go all the way across there and not a retaining wall a long time ago. And we thought about recreating that. We thought about kind of doing a mix between steps across there and a retaining wall. Grading wise, we could not do a retaining wall, and we could just grade it down to the sidewalk. But we kind of do think that the retaining wall kind of sets it up a little bit and is a nice feature. So we're probably trying to keep that is where we're headed.
Will that be replaced or remain existing?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. It's a little beat up at this point, and so
I agree. Yeah, I remember the steps being much wider than they were, but I didn't realize it was clear across there.
Yeah, so
that's interesting history. Okay, I'm going to jump around here on different topics. So I'm looking at the advertisement. So I see the 5.25% that was asked about, but on down there I see what they call the let me get this right. The mill levy mentioned a 32.5. So my question is, are we voting on a 32.5 mill levy, or are we voting on a 24 mill levy, 24 mills?
With both questions, the bond to pay off the bond, the property tax would be 32.5 mils. Now, the sales tax allows that money to be used to help pay that down, so with the sales tax, that would reduce that down to the 24 mils.
So you're voting for a $29.9 million bond issue that if the county sales tax does not pass, it'll be the 32. If the county sales tax does pass, it'll be the 24.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. And I guess I'm going to kind of switch to accounting, which is not my forte, but all I know is debits equal credits, okay? For those accountants here in the room. So I'm looking at the breakdown here, and it says, it talks about the $29.9 million, I guess, bond issue and stuff. And then it goes down there and it talks about a little over $30 million in interest, okay? And then over on the right-hand side, there's a number that goes from left to right that shows an increase of approximately $10 million. And that is explained away as expenses for the architect. Is that a true number for just the architect?
No,
that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm gonna step out here a little bit. I'm not gonna force you to answer, but what's this PT being paid for your design?
So we are charging 6.5% of the construction cost. So whatever the construction cost, our fee is 6.5% of that cost. And just full transparency, I guess, when the school interviewed 3 architecture firms, and one, what were the other, 7.5? We were the lowest of the 3.
Yeah, the SPT was the lowest.
Okay, well, I'm asking for myself as well as everyone else.
Yeah, I think one was 7.5 or 8%, and the other was 7, right? And
Yeah,
so,
Who's talking? Oh, excuse me.
and then, so that's how we're getting paid.
So if you're 6 whatever percent of the construction cost, there's still money, approximately, what, $9 million that doesn't say what it's for, the way I look at
Can
it.
I see I'm not sure what you're.
Sure.
That's probably accounting for the insurance cost, or the insurance.
On the right. I'm just looking at the breakdown. See how it's explained?
Well, I see, I don't know where you got the 9.5.
I just subtract. I took this amount right here and subtracted it from that amount.
Okay.
All right? I don't know if that's accounting correctly or not. I just want to know for everyone.
So yeah, that's not how this is actually done. So the bonds to be issued are 29.9 million. The project costs are 39.6 million. And so the school has in this situation $8.5 million that they got from insurance money that has been used to, the total cost of the project is the 39.464, but total cost of the bond removes $8.5 million from that for insurance costs.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go back and change the question a little bit now.
Okay.
Okay, so get my notes out here. So $29.9 million for the cost.
For the bonds.
The bonds, excuse me, thank you for the change. Okay, you're getting 6.5% or whatever you say. So the next question is, for the construction manager, what are they being paid? What's their fee? Anybody want to answer?
I can't remember what fee you had on your construction management interview. Was it, that's like 3% or something? I can't remember. It's somewhere in the 3.5% fee range, so. Yeah.
2.5 or 2. I'm just curious.
It's somewhere,
I want people to know besides myself.
yeah, it's somewhere in the 2.5 to 3.5%. I can't remember exactly.
Other construction costs.
Yeah.
So call it 3% times 30 million, right? So
Right.
$900,000.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that helps. So,
I guess, are you just trying to look for transparency? I mean, those are costs that would be associated with any project.
right, man, I understand that.
Okay.
And that's fair enough, Greg, thank you. So, my understanding, there's a guaranteed maximum price for this project. Is that right, Barry?
There will be, yes.
Pardon me?
There will be once the drawings and all the plans are finalized.
Okay, but some conceptual estimate has been made to establish the need for $29.9 million.
That's correct.
All right, just being transparent, okay? So anyway, if you just add the interest and the bond expenses and stuff, you're talking about, and I guess that's included somewhere in these numbers, these expenses?
All of those costs are included in that $39 million number. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so you add the $39 million plus the interest. Is that a correct way to do the accounting?
Yeah, the interest for the bonds are not included in that 39 million.
No, but it is a cost.
Right, just like when you buy a house.
Okay, so now we're up to $69 million, right? No, yeah, 69. So I'm just trying to accumulate this. So I'll just leave those comments there. So my next question is,
I mean, it's kind of like buying a house, right? You buy a house for $100,000 and you have to pay the interest on top of that over time.
But it's still a cost to the
Sure.
and still a cost to the school.
Correct.
So I'm just bringing this out so everyone understands this. Okay. So back to a school board meeting, Mr. Stoddard, that I attended. I think it was the last organized school board meeting. This probably isn't working too good, but unless I pick it up. So there was a thing on the agenda to approve, sign an engineering company, pay them for doing some civil work for like 50 grand or so, right? Right. And that was approved, right? Correct. So my question is, was that figured into the cost of the $29.9 million?
Yes. No, that's figured into the cost of the $39 million. The $29 million is only for the bonds.
Yeah. Okay.
The overall cost.
Yeah, for the 39. Thank you. That's fair enough. So how did that price compare with what was estimated? Was it under what was estimated or over?
It's right in line with what was estimated.
That's a good deal.
And because here's how I do that. I'm the one that came up with the original estimate and then what I do is that when we have we interview contractors and we interview 3 contractors, or construction managers, sorry, and
well, they're actually defined as a contractor in the agreement.
And so basically when we go through that interview process, I say, hey, we've come up with this scope of work, and this is my estimate, and I ask them to validate that they could build it for that amount of money, because I want everybody to understand what they're signing up for. They have to understand the scope of the project that their fees are for. Yeah. And so we also include that is for the construction costs. Then we have other costs that are fixtures and furniture and equipment, things like chairs and tables that move that aren't a part of the construction contract. And then we have other professional fees, like there's also soil borings for geotech and soils report, which I'm sure you'd understand, and surveys, and the civil engineering. So I allocate 7% of the overall project just to cover all professional fees, and that's what those numbers are included into.
That helps. Thank you. All right, so conceptually speaking, looking at these pictures and stuff in that playground, can you conceptually estimate how tall those retaining walls are going to be? I'm trying to be open-minded here. I know you can't say.
I don't remember the exact grades, but they're somewhere in the range of 7 feet at the highest, and I think, and then they taper down to nothing where it's not needed. So,
So the general area between, well, call this that south retaining wall is conceptually shown there. How much of a clear zone between that wall and what I call Hillside Drive will be there?
You're talking about from the road and then that wall?
Yeah, and that wall.
Enough so that we're not impacting the road? Is that a good enough answer?
Well, yes and no, to be honest with you, because you probably know where I'm coming from. I mean, that was an old highway, may have had a clear zone defined years ago, may not have, I don't know. But that's certainly a safety thing as far as I'm concerned. Now, how many cars has gone through that fence? Probably none. But the dynamics of this school project is changing that, and those things need to be factored in.
Well, as those walls get engineered, all that will be factored in. And it will be factored in. We haven't designed that wall yet, of course, but as that wall gets designed, there'll be a civil engineer on board or structural engineer on board to design that wall to make sure that we're not impacting any of those factors.
Yeah, and I mean, pictorially, conceptually, it shows a railing on top of a wall for some fall protection, which is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? So I get that.
Anything over 42-inch drop, we have to have a railing on top of it.
Yeah. So a question more on the profile, what I call the x-axis versus the y. Can you conceptually explain what that profile may look like and what the cross slopes may look like? You know, because.
Are you talking about a playground area, or are you talking about the area above it?
Playground area. The area above it will take care of itself, kind of.
Well, we're going to put a slope on that ground that is going to be able to drain back like it does now, but it's not going to be 3%. It's going to be 3% is the maximum that you can allow for a mobile terrain. But obviously you don't want a playground area at 3%. So it's probably going to be somewhere in the 1.5 to 2%. That all, again, hasn't been designed yet.
Okay. All right. So we'll wait and see when whatever percent plans require that to be included.
Right.
So with that statement, what in the 30% plans that are coming out soon, as I understand, what will be in those 30% complete plans?
So it kind of goes back to what Barry said earlier about the GMP. GMP is a guaranteed maximum price. Well, the guaranteed maximum price is the overall cost that we've established with the bond money and with the insurance money. It's not going to go over that, because what we do is we work to make sure that the overall scope that we've shown fits into that number, and we're going to make sure that we don't go over that number. And so, sorry, I lost track. So what was your question again?
I'm talking about the profile, the x-axis.
Oh, you said at what point what is included in the 30%?
We're all getting lost in this BS.
So what is included in the 30% is that we're doing our drawings to a 30% level, and then McCown Gordon is going to take our drawings, and then they're going to do a cost estimate on those drawings to make sure that we're not exceeding the budget. And if they come back and they tell us, well, we think you're $1 million over on this, or we think you're $500,000 on this, then we make sure that we kind of scale back, and that can be through materials, it can be through some different things. We try not to let it affect the square footage that we've established, but what we do is we work back and forth as a team so that we make sure that we're doing everything that we promised in the bond issue for the same amount of money that's approved by the voters. And so that's how we work back and forth as a team to get to that point. And then again, what's included in that 30%, it's going to be a little bit more heavy on the structural, and the things that we're pushing for earlier are the long lead items of HVAC equipment that takes a long time to get here, and the electrical equipment that takes a long time to get here. And then also what we want to do is we're trying to get to the point where we can have the foundations and the structural still ready for these guys to bid out in probably an October timeframe, so that we can get that stuff going now, and then we can get those long lead items like the electrical and mechanical here on order, so that we can get it here as soon as we can.
Yeah, the structural steel people, whoever manages that has to get that into somebody's production.
Right.
And I don't know how long that takes, but.
And the bigger issue is we really want to get the grading, and we want to get the foundations done this fall yet, if possible.
That'd be great. I think you can handle some concrete work in the winter time if you can protect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people choose to do so. Okay, I don't know, I guess I'll just kind of close with share some experience with you. I've, in 30 plus years of being a licensed civil engineer, dealt with a lot of people, did public meetings, which this is like great. I appreciate the things that people said. It's important. I learned, my boss told me I had to listen mostly, but he would let me talk sometimes. But now you know why he didn't. But anyway, it's a good thing. But there were some pitfalls along the way that I learned from. And, I just want to say that the small details are important, and I was reminded of that the other day. Most of you in here probably don't remember the Hyatt Regency happening, but I think you do. And I don't know what you know about it, but my understanding that based on when I was in steel design, that we talked about that. It was just a simple little connection problem that the contractor wanted to change, and they put RFI on it. In my understanding, there was never any communication, and they just did it, and then things fell down. So I'll just end my talk with that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So I do think we have a really good team put together here. The county board guys, they've got a lot of great experience in construction. They've got great processes in place, and I know they're going to help select some great trade partners along the way to pay attention to the details. And our job, once it goes under construction, is to also be out here and we get signals from them about what they're going to be putting into the project, so that there's lots of checks and balances along the way. So hopefully you can all be assured of that, and hopefully you're going to see us around for another couple of years. So.
I have a couple questions. Eric, I had asked you a question earlier, and this has to do with the just happened. Since the decision from the board in May, because I've been almost every single board meeting, we decided to go through K-12 route because of all the history and what we found out that this was the best option moving forward for our community and for this. How many people have personally come to your office besides someone like me or, Ms. Kathy Warden or Wes Dreer to come and talk to you about these plans that you could sit at length in your office or talk to your architect with that could have just came and talked to you about all of this?
I've had probably around 5 or 6 people coming into my office. I've had some communication through phone calls or email.
Specifically about our project.
I'm saying overall
maybe
the project.
X and Y axis or degrees of elevation or anything like that? No. Okay. I'm just asking that because it's one of those I'm worried about the building and moving forward with this. I have faith in this team that they're going to make the best decision for our school. I'm not worried about 3 degrees or retaining walls because they're going to do that. They absolutely are going to take care of us. They've shown that they've been patient with us. Yes. I will tell you that right now. They've been so patient and have listened to the people that have spent the time to come and talk and been at the 38 meetings that we had. Okay? So they have done a phenomenal job, and I have no doubt and I have no fear. None of my decisions are based on fear. I promise you that. Okay? I have faith in every last one of these team members that we have hired and that they're going to do the job to protect this building and our students and moving forward to make the best decision.
Okay, I don't know that we have any other questions. Just as we end the night, we do thank you for everybody's support. We've had a kids committee that's around 30 people, a little bit more. They have done an amazing job in promoting this and getting information out and helping us do that. Greg and his team, Barry and Eric from McCown Gordon. Eric, I don't know, have you been with one of these yet? Yep. Have you? Okay, so you haven't. Okay, I knew Barry had been, but I couldn't remember if you had or not. But they've been wonderful to work with. I feel like just as we're working as a team, that we're starting to get a stride and we're starting to understand each other, what needs and things like that. Our board has put the time in. And this, I know this is a huge decision for our community. I really feel like we have the best people for our community to help us through this. And just moving forward, we have that choice on August 6th, on this Tuesday. And I really, I implore with you to get out to vote, to make your feelings known, and to help us move forward as a community. Our staff, our students have been so resilient in this situation. Our community has been resilient. And I, like I said before, I can't be prouder of them. And they're really what makes this place tick. And I can just say from my experiences with COVID, I was a principal in a building by myself for a month. I didn't have a custodian, I didn't have a teacher, I didn't have a student. And it's definitely those people who make a building. And it's our community as well. Thank you all very much. I can't wait to keep moving forward, to keep communicating, and moving us forward as a community and as a school district. Thank you very much.